If you are a longtime listener or viewer of this show, you are likely already aware that I am on a one-woman crusade against Alex Cooper, the host of the Call Her Daddy podcast. And if you're unfamiliar, this was, and I believe still is, the most popular podcast for women, especially young women of Gen Z. This is their #1 podcast. And the way it started off is much different than its current iteration. It started off as two girls in their 20s oversharing about their sexual exploits, giving women tips on how to give the Gluck Gluck 9000, and going into extremely graphic detail about their hookups, and encouraging other women to do the same, encouraging women to keep rosters of the men they hook up with, and essentially encouraging them to imitate the worst douchebag men that they've ever met so they can get payback or get even with those men.
With
now,
other men.
They were trying to imitate men.
Yeah, they're trying to imitate the worst men with
the
other
worst
men that were not the worst men so they can get payback against the worst men.
Correct.
Really stupid women.
Correct.
The men that didn't do anything bad, we're going to treat them bad because men treated me bad in the past. You are a dumb idiot.
Correct. Now, Call Her Daddy has evolved quite a lot since then. Now it's just a one-woman show, but she has a lot of celebrities on to talk about similar topics, but also get into deeper ones. So, Alex Cooper recently had Chelsea Handler appear on her podcast, and Chelsea Handler is kind of the natural conclusion of what Alex Cooper encourages young women to do with their lives.
Yeah.
Chelsea Handler is
old and not married.
Yeah, old, spinster, not married, extremely promiscuous, says that she is happy when obviously she's overcompensating for something. It's interesting to juxtapose Chelsea Handler with Alex Cooper because Alex Cooper, on the other hand, ended up getting married and quote-unquote settling down after her years of promiscuity. So you see two different conclusions from the same lifestyle here. But let's take a look at Chelsea Handler's own story from the Call Her Daddy podcast.
What is the best one-night stand you've ever had?
So many. I mean, I had so many fun one-night stands in my 20s and 30s. I once had sex with this guy.
Why, can I just ask, why is it that, like, there's plenty of valid criticism of, like, manosphere types, right? Why is it that The Atlantic will write an article about that, but nothing is ever said about this?
Do you really want to know?
I'm merely asking as a formality.
Rhetorical.
Because feminism.
Yes. Okay.
Right? I mean, it's also, this kind of behavior is not something that comes naturally to women, which is why you need an entire media infrastructure to convince them it's a good idea. Most women wouldn't naturally gravitate towards commitment-free sex. We're biologically wired not to do that. So that's why you need Chelsea Handler to sit on this show and convince women that it's fun.
Yeah. What's his name? I like to be able to call people out with their first and last names, which is going to be hard for this because I don't even remember his first name. I was at the London Olympics in 2012.
It was so much fun. I don't remember his name.
I was walking home late one night, and this really sexy British guy we just locked eyes, and it was like sex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, it's something you would see in a movie. I'm like, what if I just had an affair with this guy? And I walked past him and I stopped and I turned around and he had stopped. And it was late at night. Like, this was dangerous. You know, it could have been. He said, would you like to come back to my place? That was the first thing he said. The eye look that we had was so intense that I was like, yes. And we went back to his house. I mean, we barely spoke. I went over there every night after the Olympics for a week, had a full-on affair with this guy. It was just like chemistry, but not a lot of like getting to know each other. It was just purely sexual.
Couple things come to mind right off the bat. First of all, affairs makes it sound like one of them was in a relationship. The other one is like just locking eyes and going home with somebody is exactly the type of thing a serial killer would do. if he could get away with it.
This again, it's like Ted Bundy's dream.
The amount
all
of
women to
risk
behave
that
like
you
this.
put yourself in to do that. It's like that meme that was like why Pakistan is which is a number one like travel location for women, and the meme was like, who wrote this? The head of human trafficking. Like,
yeah, I don't know why Chelsea Handler referred to it as an affair, given that she has never been married. Maybe this guy that she was hooking up with
I guess he was wearing a wedding ring, maybe?
Or it was just, her colloquial phrasing. But this is a story being presented to largely an audience of women decades upon decades younger than Chelsea Handler. And it's used to sell the idea to them.
And to your point, you said women are not biologically programmed to behave this way. Men are in a lot of ways. Now, here's the thing. For men, the reason it is biologically programmed into them is because en masse, they're not as at risk of being harmed physically when something like this goes wrong.
It's
That's
not just
also
harmed.
true.
It's not just harmed physically. The consequences.
That's what I'm saying. Go ahead.
The consequences of a sexual interaction aren't as bad. Like, so the guy doesn't beat you up, right? So it's actually an encounter where there's no one that's trying to injure the other person. Right? The guy doesn't want to kill you. It's not a rape murder. That's like cool. You survived the actual encounter, but historically, pregnancy and the things that pregnancy does to a woman's body are massively consequential, and you can die in childbirth, and that has been fairly common for the vast majority of human history. It's only in the past 100 years where the West, not even the whole world, but the West, it has become uncommon for women to die in childbirth, right? Like, that's a massive evolutionary pressure. So women have been very careful about who they do and don't have sex with. This idea that we can just cast off literal millions of years of evolution because now we live in a society that's generally safe for people to have these kind of interactions, and we have birth control, that's ridiculous, and it's absurd to act like you can do that. It's the like height of midwittery to think, oh, we have evolved past this. No, we haven't. Psychologically, we have not at all. It's only a few generations, like two, that this has been even possible. It's ridiculous. And the fact that there are so many women and so many prominent people that are promoting this behavior is doing a massive disservice to young people and to specifically to women.
Right. And it's not just the risk of health complications or death in childbirth. It's also sex has always and still is inherently risky for women.
Yep.
Because obviously pregnancy, if it all goes well, will saddle you with the responsibility of a child, and you need a present father to invest in the genetic outcome. So you cannot do away with that just because you have biohacking technology. It still has the same psychological effects, and that's why it impairs pair bonding ability for women, especially. Now, people listen to Chelsea Handler's story that she told on Call Her Daddy, and they think, well, this is obviously why Chelsea Handler has ended up alone. She's old, postmenopausal, and never been married, and probably will stay that way. And she's trying to convince everyone online that she is happy that way. No one believes her. But I don't actually think that is necessarily the outcome for this type of behavior, given Alex Cooper's life trajectory. She got married last year to a very highly accomplished, handsome man of a similar age bracket and class to her. And I have no idea what he sees in her personally, but clearly this was a relationship advantageous to the both of them. And when she announced her wedding and posted all these glamorous photos and was featured in Vogue and everything, people were confounded at the idea that she could engage in such disgusting, promiscuous behavior for so many years. Not only that, but indiscreetly blasted all over social media for the entire time she was doing it, and a man would still be interested in a long-term commitment with her. But here is her own personal account of losing interest in that type of hookup behavior.
when you're younger in your 20s, like, who the fuck wants to get married and settle down?
Yeah.
Some people, but not me at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to feel the thrill. I want to be getting my head bashed into the mattress. I want to be getting flipped upside down, and then I want to be getting ghosted the next day. I want to have my heart ripped out of my chest, and I want to do it all over again and then some. And then when you get a little older, you're kind of like, I literally don't have time. When you're young.
Why would you take a woman's complaints about men seriously when they actively admit to wanting all of the things they're complaining about?
Watching that, I think like you're kind of exposing yourself. You're kind of doing a self-report, because no woman with a healthy mindset and upbringing would ever think that way. Like, I don't find that relatable, that statement that she just made. Like, do I want to get treated as disposable and have my heart ripped out by a bunch of men who don't care about me? No, that's never even crossed my mind. I would never, ever want that.
Is this like the most perverse outcome of like the idea that you have to not settle down in your early 20s and get life experience taken to its most vile conclusion?
Well, yes, but it goes far beyond that. And clearly Alex Cooper is also a product of a culture that raised her to think that this is normal and healthy behavior. But she's saying she just naturally lost interest in hookups and naturally fell into this place where she wanted a committed, long-term, monogamous relationship with her husband. Mm-hmm. She even met her husband at a point when she had contracted an STD that
I forgot about that.
Possibly could have led to long-term health complications and infertility. And he walked through that journey with her prior to marriage, still proposed and still married her despite that. And people are expressing shock at this outcome. She's married, by the way. The fact that she did this stuff, it's a surprise a man would marry her. But to be speaking about it too, totally embarrassing for them both. I don't find it shocking at all, to be honest.
I don't think that it's shocking. I think that it's telling of our society, but it's not shocking. And I want to point out, this is the podcast that Kamala Harris went on. Mm-hmm. That means that the Democrat candidate for president made a tacit endorsement of this behavior.
Yeah. I mean, beyond that,
That's
it was
disgusting.
That was a horrible campaign decision, anyways, because all those people were already voting for her.
Fair enough.
Extremely out of touch decision.
Fair enough, but the point that I'm making is, and I've made this point on IRL before, if we're going to have a successful country with happy people and happy families, we need to hold the things that make happy families up as desirable, and we need to not hold up the things that make unhappy families as desirable. This behavior is detrimental to making happy families. So the president shouldn't, or the aspiring president shouldn't be going on Call Her Daddy
and
saying,
current VP at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Shouldn't be going on Call Her Daddy and saying, yes, this is a tacit endorsement of this behavior, right? Like, it would make sense to call out J.D. Vance if he sat down on Andrew Tate's podcast. Whatever you think of Andrew Tate, because of Andrew Tate's behavior and the things that Andrew Tate says are good for men to do, like don't marry women, or Myron Gaines.
Didn't one of his White House lawyers talk to
the White House? A White House lawyer is not the same thing as the VP, but that person talking to them is not going on the podcast either, or going. on
it was
podcast.
On like a third party.
Yeah, so it shouldn't. So say Myron Gaines, right? Nothing wrong. Not that I'm saying there's anything. Not that I'm attacking Myron Gaines, but his outlook is not a pro-family outlook, and the most likely the biggest indicator about how a young person is going to turn out is the dad around. So you shouldn't have people going onto podcasts. You shouldn't have people that are looking to be leaders in the United States going onto podcasts and tacitly endorsing this kind of behavior, whether it be her behavior or someone like Myron Gaines. And again, I'm not criticizing Myron or looking to criticize Tate, but the fact of the matter is their behavior is detrimental to families. And if you want to have a successful country, which is what people in politics should want, then you should be looking to center the family and have normal, traditional families be the focus of your campaign. And you should be doing everything you can to uplift those kind of families.
We have a couple 20s before we get back into it. Zach hates YouTube. Happy Thrashing Thursday Crisis directors. Weird question, Phil. Did you have nicotine pouch or something similar in your lip on one of the IRL streams last week? It was the first time I watched on a big screen in a while.
No, sir.
Yeah, you don't do that.
I don't. I haven't
You're
had
not
any
zinny.
kind of. I haven't smoked cigarettes since 2019. I have had a couple cigars since I've been hanging out with people in DC and the like in the past 6 months. I had a cigar on, or I think I might have even had 2 cigars when we were in Nashville with the Daily Wire. And then I had one the other night when we were doing the show from Washington,
Shelley's.
D.C. So.
We have another from Slagle Customs. Y'all talk a lot on pop music. Want to get y'all's take on EDM/rave scene music. Could y'all watch the trailer for Lost Lands 2025, then look up DJ Horse Girl?
I could do that off air, but I'm not an EDM person.
I like EDM. I really like some of the older electronic music stuff like Daft Punk.
I mean, I like electronic music, but there's a difference between somebody who like follows the scene. And
Absolutely.
I never went to
Surge is
events.
that guy.
Surge is that guy.
Surge is very much that guy. Yeah.
The last thing I'll say is that in 2024, when Alex Cooper got married and posted all of the photos of this lavish wedding, I posted about the irony of it all and quoted her directly, encouraging women to engage in promiscuous behavior, and then showed the photo of her at her wedding. And a lot of people responded to that in a way that was almost celebrating the double standard or the conflict between her statements and her behavior, saying like, see, like, hoes always win in the end, haha, like, suck on that, red pillars. And I did not intend for it to be interpreted that way at all. I actually was calling Alex Cooper out for misleading and doing a disservice to the young women who follow her. Thank you. So, like, just because she won in the end, I don't think that means anything at the end of the day. Like, you can win in your own personal life, but that doesn't excuse you of the harm that you've done with your influence. We have another 20 from Father Timothy Curran. One of the things I hate so much about the whole red pill thing is there's absolutely no room for repentance. That said, nothing is guaranteed to protect you from natural consequences of your actions. True. Yeah. And it's not to say, like, I don't think redemption or repentance is possible for people, but, you know, you deal with the consequences of what you have done, even if you've been forgiven.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.